welcome to another episode of I'm Not Yelling, I'm Dominican podcast, where we chat about life and solutions to vibing higher. I'm Nachi, and I'm here with my hitter to my left and right, my homie and my beloved sister Damaris. We're two sisters raised in the Bronx, New York, by amazing Dominican parents. And like many first generation American born Dominicans and other Caribbeanites, we experienced growing up in two separate cultures, which at times brought conflict when trying to adapt to American traditions, but many other times much pride in our roots. This podcast will explore barriers and challenges in life and look at alternatives to vibe higher in the face of these challenges. So grab your cafecito or tea, sit back, and let's vibe. So, have you ever found yourself having to change how you talk, dress, or behave, which goes against what you consider your usual self to fit in, or have to adjust to refute other people's perception because of your race or where you're from? Well, you're in the right place because on today's episode, we're going to talk about double consciousness and code switching and kiki it up with our lovely guest and dope cousin, Jessica Matos of the Tia Chronicles. Welcome, Jessica.
This is like, it feels like a family reunion.
Yes,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, we know you, cuz, but we want our audience. Yes. We want them to get to know you and learn about the Tia Chronicles, which I love. So go ahead.
Yes. So like I mentioned, Jessica or Jess Matos, I'm a creative strategist and the founder and proud Tia of the Tia Chronicles LLC. And it's a space that is redefining what the modern day Tia is. You can follow us on Instagram at the Tia Chronicles. You can also check out the podcast, the Tia Chronicles, on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon Podcasts. And it really is the baby of having a great, amazing childhood being raised by dope tias, like my tia Blanca, like my tia Antonia, my tia Luisa, tia Nina, like just being around amazing tias in my life. And also bring a proud tia myself. So it was a baby that was born by way of the pandemic when I had nothing else to do. And also by way of a good friend of mine, shout out to Marlise, who started a cohort for us to really start kickstarting certain businesses throughout the pandemic. Awesome. And that's really what pushed me to like just finally do it. So shout out to the Tia Chronicles, shout out to all the Tias in the world.
Okay.
And yeah.
Praise God.
Yes, I love it.
We're here for it. That's awesome.
Yes. So let's go ahead and kick it off, Damaris.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic. I think there's especially, and I think for us, it's being Black, also Dominican from that ethnicity and cultural perspective, and then also being American. And so the idea of double consciousness and how it actually informs code switching. So for those of you guys listening that's not familiar with double consciousness, I became familiar with this concept in college. That was only like maybe 2 years ago because I'm that young. And it was one of my right hate. It was in one of my African American studies classes, and we were covering the author W.E.B. Du Bois and going over his book, The Souls of Black Folk. And in there was introduced that concept of double consciousness, which is kind of broadly speaking just the internal conflict experienced by being Black and being American and looking at yourself through the lens of a white dominated society that looked upon Black people in contempt. So, pretty much what is it to be Black and American at the same time? And so I think that absolutely obviously resonated with me as everyone of color in that class. It resonated with, but I think it definitely informs the whole idea of the code switching, right? Because I think especially for me when I went into corporate America after college, it was that sense of, okay, do I show the authentic Damaris? Probably not. I might need to tame her a little bit because she's a little BX, she's a little Dominican,
right.
It's just a little bit of everything. And that might be too much for these people that are just not used to it. These people being a largely white corporate, company. So I was mindful about it and I was aware, but it was also something that was just like, look, this is par for the course. If I'm expected to be, successful in this space, I'm going to have to play within this, play nice, if you will. So that's how I kind of experienced that to a certain degree. But I'd love to hear from you, Jessica, because I no longer work in corporate America. I'm the boss of me now, which I love. Praise God, everybody.
Yes.
So I don't have to deal with those kinds of pressures as much, but I know you and Nachi, that, you're still working in a space where, yeah, you do have to be mindful. So kind of, what's your experience in that for you?
Yeah. I feel like in a way, code switching is something that was passed down. Like it was just something I knew I would have to do one day. So my prima hermana, Alex, your guys' god sister, I always tell people the story, like, my sister was the blueprint because, she went to college, so I went to college. But I also know that you guys were the blueprint for her, right? So it's kind of like the trickle down effect. Like if you guys hadn't gone to college, she wouldn't have gone to college, I wouldn't have gone to college. And so we did the thing that we, was modeled in front of us, right? I'm grateful for that. So shout out to y'all for kicking it off. And so I knew that I couldn't, even when I lived in New York, I knew I couldn't bring the Bronx into the boardroom or into the office or whatever. And I was very clear that work was work and life was life. So, even in the earlier days of social media, if you worked with me, you wasn't following me. We probably weren't kicking it like that because I just felt like church and state. There was no need for those things to mix. And also being from New York, I didn't need those things to mix. So it's like, well, I actually have friends.
Right. I don't need that is my experience. I'm so glad you said that because I remember when I was first starting out, like, yes, I absolutely treated it like church and state. I compartmentalized. I also had hard boundaries with work, period, meaning after 5 o'clock, 5:30, I worked on the buy side of asset management. So once the market closed, we were done. And I was done. I walked out that door, it was left there. Some people don't operate that way. I do, I still do, I did then. But to your point, though, I remember just feeling like, I got friends and people to see, so I'm good. And I will show up to a work event, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, y'all got about an hour of my time. I'm here. I'm a team player, team player. So
I showed up and now I'm
you
leaving.
saw my
I
face.
showed up,
shook hands. No, there's definitely a clear distinction between your work friends and your friends' friends.
100%.
And how much you shared with them. And then I was like, okay, I got a party to go to with my friends. I mean, my bosses would always be like, wow, you always got something to do. I'm like, yeah, I grew up here. I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yes, 100%.
I had 2 beers with you. Leave me alone.
That should be enough, right?
So be happy.
So the code switching felt very easy when I lived in New York because it was like, all right, I clock in, I'm this, and when I clock out, I'm myself, right? And then when I moved to LA in 2017, that's when I really felt like almost like a double need to code switch because it wasn't only code switching from like to the comfort of white Americanism in corporate spaces, but also I wasn't around a lot of the Black and non-Black POCs that I was used to being around in New York. So, the concept that I'm Black and speak Spanish, that would like trip people out. Like, oh, like you can do that. So that was another piece of it, right? And I remember one day I was at work in a team meeting and a friend of mine, I have this thing too, where I say there are people that are friends that I happen to work with. And then there are people that are legit just my coworkers. This happens to be a friend that I happen to work with. Okay. And she said to me after the meeting, she was like, yo, the Bronx kind of came out in that meeting. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, And what I really want to say, what we said after, because we got drinks, I was like, because these people got me fucked up. And so no, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't say anything in the meeting that would have been deemed unprofessional or whatever, but we talk with our hands.
But the energy was there. The energy
was like, if you want the corporate smoke, it's available, right? Like that's very much what it was giving. And so I think now there's a different shift of when we ask people to show up as their authentic selves, do we actually know what we're asking, right? I remember a colleague of mine had gotten let go, and it was a Black man in advertising and marketing, and some of the reasons why, or some of the conversation that came up was like, it was a little bit challenging for us to like connect with him, and we would ask him to be vulnerable, and like he wouldn't. And another Black woman on the team was like, do you even know what you're asking him as a Black man? Like to be vulnerable in the workplace?
Right.
For what? For you to use it against him later? So I think there's a lot.
Weaponized.
100%. And we have to understand that corporate cultures, a lot of them, sadly, are built around the white tech bro or the white finance bro or the white advertising bro. So even as an American, there are things in certain corporate environments that don't apply the same way they apply to Timothy because I'm not a white woman. I'm definitely not a white man. And so when we think about just apply the culture, we have to understand that the very real reality is the culture doesn't apply the same way to everyone. So
no, absolutely.
No, you bring up a good point. Just about when we're being asked to be authentic, do you really know what you're asking? Because I will say in my last corporate role towards the end, it was just very difficult and I didn't find I was getting a lot of support, but I was being promoted and it was like, okay, but y'all are not supporting me at that level, so I'm not going to really succeed. And when I was being authentic to myself and I told my team that you are responsible for your own happiness, not this job, not your spouse, not your kids. Well, guess what? They were not ready for that. And
they're like, oh, so you're not going to be the kumbaya boss,
right? Yeah. And I was speaking to a group of your cohorts, millennials. Not saying all millennials are like that, but they weren't ready for the smoke. That I was just telling them that you're responsible for this, not this company or anyone else. But yeah, and I was dinged for that hard.
And that's something that I think too, sadly, right? Growing up, like when I graduated college 2009, so it wasn't no jobs, wasn't no nothing. It was debt and vibes, right? And so eventually when I get into corporate and all these things, the very reality is a lot of folks in my generation, though I mean, hopefully now in our mid going into our later 30s, we're getting compensated the way we should be compensated and all those other things. But the reality is we were the generation that's like, oh, you're going to pay me in beer and snacks? Fuck it, I'll take it, right? Because that's what was available. True. Or you're going to pay me in stock that may never actually pop off because the shit might go bankrupt. Okay, so we were brainwashed in a way to really buy into like, you're making a difference and look at this great place you're at. And it takes someone who's very well-grounded to know how much of the Kool-Aid you have to pretend to drink to like fit in and fake the funk, and how much of it you're like, yes, I'm gonna have water. Like, this is not for me. and being secure within yourself, knowing that it's okay to feel that way and not have to just fake the funk 100% of the time. So yeah, it's sometimes at certain corporate spaces, especially in certain industries, it can feel like you're in a cult. Where you're like, no, like this is my job, bro. Like, and that should be enough. Like, why do I have to make this my life? Why I gotta wear swag? Why, like, let me just clock in, clock out.
Right. Let me just live my life. I can't do this. Just 100%. Keeping that separate. It is difficult because, I'm still in the corporate world and I'm very much keep it separate. And I always have to, it's funny when they start, having the water cooler discussion. I'm always mindful of what I'm saying to anyone. I remember this one guy, he used to come to me. They were doing like mass layoffs. And he texted me and he was like, this is a black dude. And I don't really talk to him because he's like in a separate building and, and we're like maybe the only two black folks in the company. And so he's texting me. He says, hey, what do you think about so-and-so, asking us about how we feel about our supervisors because we got this new HR person.
It's a trap, bruh.
Girl.
Why I gotta tell you that? You don't know?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I know he interviewed me and I told him my piece and I'm good. I'm not getting into that because you're not throwing me under the bus. Correct. I don't know you. Yes, we're both black, but I don't know you and I don't know how you're going to use that information.
Yes. And you bring up a good point because I think there have also been instances where even in spaces where I've worked with a lot of black people or I've had a lot of black people either part of my team or the company or whatever. I've also experienced almost like the hazing by black and non-black POCs, right? Where it's like, well, I went through it, so you got to go through it too. Or and so sometimes the code switching and the white supremacy vibes really coming from your own people. One, I think out of a place of like survival and that's all they know. So they're trying to just pass on what they know, which is, the toxic shit. But then on the other side, it's very much like, well, I went through it, so you got to do it this way too. Like you don't get to have the cheat code. And it is so unfortunate because the goal should be always to have the next generation after you have it easier every single time, as opposed to you gotta go through it the hard way. So you do have to assimilate, and you do have to code switch, and you do have to do all that other stuff. It's unfortunate.
And I love that you say that, because I recall when I do have people who start reporting to me and they're Black or a person of color, and I'm like, they'll come to my office because I always have like an open door, right? Because I'm like, I want you to talk to me. I want you to share with me what's going on. But we're going to keep it, because that's how I am. And I get that, right? But I also am not going to feed into this gossipy type of discussion, because again, I don't know you. But I do want you to succeed. So I am going to share some tidbits that's going to help you along the way. And I think that is very important. And I think we always need that type of support, because it's not many of us in that field or in that arena where we can provide that type of support. So that's a good point.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up about even sometime the hazing within your own group, right? And when I first started at my first corporate job, one of my the HR ladies that was interviewing me for the entry level role. The thing is, I had already been working there as a temp, but in a different department. But I was interested in a particular role within marketing, and I had the backing of a senior vice president, the office manager of my other department. They're like, you could do whatever you want to me, because you're amazing. I'm like, I know. Thank you. So
thanks.
So go to
the HR. You know what I already know.
Right. Go to have the HR meeting, and it's being conducted by this Black woman. She's not that much older than me, but whatever, right? I'm a little nervous because it is my first real, interview for a corporate role, my job out of college. And she what was it that she did? She started off with calling my prospective boss, described her as being a bitch. And I was just thrown off, because I'm like, is she talking to me that way because I'm Black? And she's like, you down? Or is this a trap?
Mm-hmm.
So that threw me off my game. I'm not going to lie. And so I didn't really do great in that interview. So they didn't call me back. But the senior vice president of the department that I was in was like, what's going on? Why haven't you heard back? I'm like, I don't know. His assistant, who was also the office manager, reached out to HR. And she's like, what's going on with Damaris's, offer? And the HR woman said, well, she didn't do well in the interview. I don't think she's ready, blah, blah, blah. She didn't answer the questions right or something like that. And the woman who was the office manager, she was a Black lady. She was like, maybe you didn't ask the right questions.
No.
No, that's right. When I say these people had my back, they had my back.
She said what she said.
Right.
I was like, okay, thank you, sister. Thank you, because you knew my worth. You knew what I was bringing to the table, and that just wasn't like me. But again, I was tripped off. I was like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, I got the job. I mean, the SVP told my new boss, who the HR woman called a bitch, he was like, you're going to hire this woman. She's great. I was like, ooh, okay.
There you go.
And I was hired, and it was, history ever since. But what was funny was that HR woman, she was part of this group of Black people that worked in my company, that they would get together and have drinks and whatnot. But I wasn't included. But I knew about the events because my boy was in it. And I knew I wasn't included because of her. Right? So I was
shady.
So my boy would be like, oh, yo, you want to come through? We're going to all come. I was like, I don't need to. I got friends. I don't need to hang out with y'all. First of all, I'm making friends with the right people in this company. If I'm gonna do after work drinks, I'd rather spend that time doing it with someone who's gonna have a say in my progression here, because y'all are not my friends. Now, if I was trying to, I was like, I called them the syndicate. I was like, oh, you going to a syndicate happy hour?
But you know what? It's funny you mentioned that too, because a lot of big corporate companies have employee resource groups or business resource groups, right?
Wait, this is before that was the thing. There were no affinity groups back then.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, that, that was the initiation of that, right?
Right.
And so those groups are great. And there's a lot of reason why they exist and deserve to exist. And not like as a social club, we go out for drinks. No, like actual business value, right? To the business. But there's also this misconception, I think, especially from non-Black folks, Black folks, people, the whites, the clears, right? Where it's like everybody, y'all all in the same group, so y'all all like the same shit, or y'all all the same, or have the same interests. And it's like, no, that's not how. It's like within any population of people, yeah, we have a shorthand in a very specific way, but there's a lot that's different. You know, someone could be from Miami, Boston, Chicago, Texas, New York, like
it's different.
Simply being Black does not mean that we're going to necessarily be kicking it all the time, or get along, or agree, or insert Black for Asian, Latino, and any other racial or ethnic group. And that really, I think, sometimes blows white people's minds, because they're like, but you guys are all the same. And it's like, but we're not a monolith. And that's what y'all don't ever want to understand. Y'all don't want to do the work to understand that there's nuance and richness in the tapestry of our cultures, because you just want to be able to say, y'all all fit into this box because it's going to make your life easier, as opposed to digging into the diversity within the diversity. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to, what do you think are some of the impacts of code switching? Both positive and negative, because I feel like there's certain things to that, right?
Yeah. So in my role right now, I have to speak Spanish most of the day. I'm based in Mexico City, and I have, stakeholder partners in Mexico. Like, I see them in the office. I can have stakeholder partners in Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, even. And what I notice, and it's not something that I'm always super conscious of, it just happens, depending on who I'm talking to. If their accent is a bit more Mexican, that comes out when I'm speaking to them in Spanish. Or if they're Colombian, then I'm like, it's almost like I'm trying to copy them a little bit, and not like in a
disrespectful way. It's just
in a disrespectful way or making fun. It's just what naturally comes out. Because I also know that if I were to just start speaking Spanish, Dominican Spanish, no one would understand me at work. No one. They'd be like, we cut off S's, R's, T's, L's. Like, it's very different, right? Yes. So on the one hand, it works for me, and I'm putting this in air quotes, because I think there's a comfort and a trust there with my stakeholder partners. And they're like, okay, like, I hear often, you speak Spanish so well, which I think is really, it's actually not a compliment. It's like telling someone they speak English so well. It's like, like what?
You're so articulate.
Right.
It's
Where did you learn how to speak Spanish? Like, I grew up speaking Spanish.
I remember not too long ago, I text Chachi and I was like, she was so sick of me. I was like, was Spanish our first language? She's like, duh, stupid.
Yes, it was.
But the reason I asked was because as kids, we weren't in ESL, right? So I always think of, like, when you learn, let's say Spanish is your first language, when you go to school, it's kind of like you automatically in ESL. I was like, we didn't have that. She's like, yeah, because we didn't really have a choice. She really was like, duh, stupid. I was like,
she's like, why are you even asking me?
She's like, that's the dumb question. Like, next. They are stupid questions. You just asked one.
Right. She's like, honestly, like, are you adopted or what? What's going on here? So all that to say, there is that level of trust, right, that I'm able to build with folks, etc. It's also good for me because, if I want to move about the cabin in other countries in Latin America, there is something nice to be able to kind of like lean in and flex vocabulary. That was a big thing for me. Like, just certain words that I'm like, I don't even know how to say this in the corporate setting or whatever. With English, I found more and more, I've gotten more comfortable with not feeling like I have to code switch as strictly as I used to. So like sometimes in email, I'd be like, thanks everyone for sending over the brief. Talk to y'all, at noon, right, y'all. Where before, 24-year-old Jess would have been you all. Right? Like, so, and that might seem really small, but that took time for me to get comfortable, right? Yes. Or, sometimes in an email or on Slack, I'll be like, LMK, let me know, right? As opposed to, and granted, I also appreciate that I'm in an industry where I can do that, right? Like if I worked in finance, probably not. If I was in the legal field,
work with older people.
Or work with older people, like,
what? LMK, what?
100%. So that also
like,
helps me in that sense. Right? They're like, why are you making this political? Like, I just want to set a meeting.
What does Martin Luther King have to do with this?
Correct. So all that to say, the practice of code switching has helped me because I've been able to advance in my career for one way or another. And then on the flip side, I've just gotten more comfortable of like, this is what, like there's sometimes where I have to send feedback and I'm like, guys, it's been a really long day. I'm sending this in English because like I can't. The gymnastics of my brain are not working.
Yeah,
like,
you can't.
Sorry, right? So I think the longer you spend in corporate America, be it in various companies, whatever, the more comfortable you also get with like, I know who the fuck I am. And like, I'm not, you know, a junior associate that just, you know, graduated college 5 minutes ago. Like also like put some respect on me. And so it hasn't felt as like shocking in that sense, but there were definitely years where I was like, you all, and, you know, Grammarly, and let me make sure I spell check right, because I don't want them to think I'm stupid. And,
no, it's so true, because you're fighting against the perception or stereotypes that they may have. And the thing is, you don't want to reinforce that, right? Like for me, it was toning down the way I spoke to people, meaning while being direct, but being corporate direct. And you know what that's like, right? So saying something that's like diplomatic, but at the same way firm, because you don't want to be a weak woman. But being Black, then I might look aggressive, angry Black woman. So I'm like, you know, trying to straddle this fence. And it wasn't, sometimes it was easy. Sometimes it was just downright annoying, because I would see straight up men and some white women in my office be aggressive as fuck and get away with it in a way that I know I could not. I know I could not on any level. Now, working for myself, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I will tell you the way I want to tell you. And I'll still deliver it with love. You know?
Right.
I just also feel like
you're going to be very direct about it.
And that's the thing, like directness is not a bad thing.
No, it's not. But
it's made for
like,
us. Yeah, it's made for us to feel like it's, you know, we're being aggressive when we're being direct. Right. And, you know, I think it's harder for Black women to be out there and constantly, because that's like a third, like what they said, the third consciousness of not only are you dealing with being Black,
it's a triple consciousness, right?
Right. But now you have to deal with the patriarchy of how things are done. And dealing with that. And then you have to always kind of be that submissive, you know, woman to deal with, you know, with whatever that they throw at you. You know, you can't be aggressive because you're like that, like you said, that angry Black woman.
Right.
And I think I struggled with that, because imagine I tell you, I'm emotional. Like I'm, you know, I'm the one. You guys know your I like to flip shit over.
Wait, what was that?
Yes.
Do you know your big three? You both know your big threes?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Real quick, because I need to know. Because you just got emotional. I was like, ooh, I wonder.
Yes. Leo Sun, Virgo Rising, and Capricorn Moon.
Ooh, Capricorn Moon.
Yes. Gemini Sun, Leo Rising, and Capricorn Moon.
Now both of y'all having the same moon.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Mine is I'm Leo Sun, Taurus Moon, which is so funny because Chachi, my sister, is a Taurus, and my rising is a Scorpio. So that's how I'm always on 10, because it's just it's too much. It's actually too fucking much. Always. Blame the astro.
Like, calm your ass
right,
down.
Like, why are you so I can relate to the emotional piece. Like, there's always memes that be like, you know, I would be a lot scarier if I would just stop crying every time I got mad.
right. Because it's like, I'm so angry right now.
Oh my God,
y'all I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I want to punch you and I can't.
Right.
Yes. I just want to drop kick you right this very minute.
No, it's so true. It's funny. So like for me, though that wasn't depleting for me, it sounds like for Nachi it might have been a little depleting, and I get that. It's but one thing I did want to say that I kind of forgot, but it was some meme that was going around on Instagram that was so funny to me and it resonated with me so much. It was like this voiceover that was like, y'all always ask me, add me on Facebook. And he's like, I'm damn near a gangster. I can't add you on Facebook. I'm like, that's how I felt when people would, at that time, Facebook wasn't that big, you know, but it would be like, oh, you know, we should hang out or tell me more about your life. And I'm like, no, I'm damn near a gangster. I can't tell you, like, look, I'm busy trying to go to the club Monday night because those are the best nights in New York City, Sunday through Thursday. Like,
right. You don't want to know about don't that. Have friends to tag you on pictures that I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to approve it because
it's so funny. Wow. I was at dinner last night with a friend who's in town. She's working in an event and she lives in Chicago. She's from New York, but she lives in Chicago now. We were talking about, you know, just going out and she was asking me like, so what's like your week like here and stuff like that. And I mentioned you, Damaris. I was like, yo, when I was younger, I have an older cousin who she put me on. Like, I was like, before I could even like go out anywhere, she put me on to the fact that what you do is you go out during the week and then your weekends are for you. And I remember like then eventually when I was old enough to go out and, you know, was fucking broke, I would go out during the week because that's when all the free shit was around too, right? So you'd go to these places and you avoid the bridge and tunnel crowd and you feel so posh. So yeah, I mentioned you because I was like, that was one of the first life lessons.
You know, it's funny. I don't even remember telling you that, but I'm glad that I imparted that wisdom on you. Like, I feel good. Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. You did good. You did good.
Thank you. Goodness. You know, back to kind of like when we were talking about the impacts of code switching, the question too is, should you have to, right? And I personally feel like, I think to a certain degree, there's really no choice in this to survive or to be successful in corporate America. It's not changed that much. Like, yes, there are some changes. I think you mentioned like the affinity groups, and also when you have a certain level of experience and seniority, you know, you could demand and command a certain amount of things. But I think to just be like, no, I don't have to do this. Yeah, you kind of have to, you know, to just get through and survive and also just be successful because that's just kind of the way it is to some degree. But, you know, I don't know. Like,
yeah, I think there's also, I say this often. I'm like, everyone sells their soul a little bit when they get up in the morning and go work for someone else. Like we all are willing to sacrifice some part of ourselves for a fucking check, right? Whatever that price is personal, but we all are willing to do some level of that. So even if you're not code switching in your accent, in your dialect, in a language, you're likely buying into the corporate culture, or at least pretending to, right? You're adding exclamation points at the end of your email to make sure people don't, you know, are happy after reading your email. Or you're saying, I think, instead of just saying what it is you need to say. Or you're, I'm so sorry to bother you. Or like, you know, so even if it's not code switching in the way that like the origins of that term, you know, have come to exist, you're not ever really fully showing up as you, because then you wouldn't have a fucking job. Like, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't want to, like, even corporate companies don't want to admit. They're like, no, come as you are.
Do you really want me to?
Right. Yeah, I don't think you do.
So I think that there's always going to be that part where you're going to have to give in a little bit.
Yeah. So what do you then think about, and this is for everybody, you know, how do you ease the distress of code switching, if there is distress? And I think to some degree, there's some levels of distress. Like for me, I was able to compartmentalize. So, and I also, while yes, I had to dial myself back, I think because I had very clear boundaries in the workplace, they also knew who I was. So like when I went on vacation, I was very clear, do not contact me because I will not follow up. I will not reach out to you. This is my personal time, and personal time is sacred. So because I established some of that, I think, you know, that was authentic to me. But was I 100%? No. You know, I was probably like 70 or something. But for me, compartmentalizing, understanding, having the clear boundaries helped me to ease any depletion that I may have from, you know, not being able to really have an outlet. What about for you guys?
I know. Well, for me,
I'm like dying to hear. I'm like, tell us.
For me, I also separated, you know, my life at work and my home life, right? Because it's just two different things, and I'm not gonna, you know, bring things from work to home. But one thing I know that I've always done, I always had like one person that was my home girl, right? And whenever some shit would go left, that was who I would go to. Sometimes I even called Damaris. I would leave my office, call Damaris, and be like, can you believe what this bitch done said to me? Because I have to let it out. Because, you know, like I said, I'm very emotional, and I would want to go off, you know? And sometimes it's okay to let them know that you're upset about something. Like I remember one time, oh my goodness, my direct supervisor, he was a man, and he was fairly new to the company. And because I've been with them for so long, I kind of do my own thing, right? I know what I'm doing. I don't need anyone telling me
I
how
don't
to
need
do it.
supervision. I'm an adult.
Right. I know
Yes.
what to do. I know what to do. I know my job. So we had this new project, and I was just like inundated with so many different things. And his boss, which is my second line supervisor, sent me an email saying, "Hey, I need something." Like she sent, I'm gonna say she sent it like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I need X, Y, and Z by this meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Number one, I'm in the middle of doing something. Like I was in a meeting. I get off at 5 because I have kids that I have to go pick up. So it can't get done. I'm not going to do it at home because I'm busy with my kids. And by the time, morning time, I get to work at 9 o'clock. So
right. So
you're
you're
just
like,
not going to get it.
how is the math going to math here? Because
Math
your
ain't
lack of planning
mathing.
does not become an emergency.
So you're just not going to get it. So let me tell you how she called a meeting in his office, called me in there, and she took that opportunity, I guess, to try to teach him how to supervise. And said, well, I asked you to do something for me yesterday, and I needed it for this morning, and you didn't reply to my email, yada yada yada. So I politely, told her, listen, I was in a meeting when you sent that email. I had to go home, and you needed it at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't get to work until 9. So I'm sorry that you didn't get it in time. My apologies. I was just like really busy. So she wants to tell me, oh, well, next time, please just let me know. And my supervisor, he's just sitting there looking. So I'm fuming inside. I'm fuming because I really wanted to go off. Because I wanted to say, you know me. We've worked together for a very long time.
Like you're not new here.
Stop
You're
playing
not
dumb.
new here.
So stop playing dumb.
So you
Stop
trying to
playing
make
dumb.
an example of me. And I don't like that. But all right. She left. And the next day I went to his office. And I said to him, I closed the door nicely.
Don't you ever. No, stop.
I was like, let me explain something to you. That whole conversation yesterday, I did not like. Because as much as I work for you all, bend over backwards, and for her to come and say, oh, this one mistake that I did, that I couldn't get to her what she needed in her time. I mean, girlfriend, you sending me this email at the end of the day.
You must not have really wanted it.
Right.
That's it.
Your emergency is not my urgency. So don't come at me.
Also, if she saw you didn't reply, I don't know. How about you do it yourself if you need it that bad? I mean,
thank you.
Call me crazy.
Thank you. So I had to set him straight because I'm like, you, my supervisor. I don't understand why that whole connection right there had to even happen.
Yeah.
And so, but I had to let it out because I was, like I said, I was fuming, and I knew that if I let it just fester, I was going to blow up and it wasn't going to be good. So I had to let it out, but it's okay. It's okay to say, you have to kind of step back and take a moment and then, okay, let me revisit this so that what I need to say comes out direct, but not hostile, because I wasn't hostile towards him. I was just like, that's just, I work too hard for y'all to be treating me
like this is unacceptable
in this manner. That's not gonna work for me, not at all. So I feel like you have to be able to, like you mentioned, the way we write emails, like with the I think, or, I'm sorry to be bothering you, or even when you go into someone's office and you say, oh, I'm sorry to be bothering you. Do you have a minute? Kind of cut that out. Cut that out of your language. Cut it out of your language. And then, it's okay to be direct. You just need to do it, because then they'll start to take you a little bit more seriously, and you start feeling, more confident in
100%.
how you manage and navigate that world, because now you're saying what you want to say without this, oh, I'm sorry to bother you, or, can you do me this little favor?
Yeah. Everything's so tiptoeing.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah, you're walking on eggshells. And
Yes.
that's probably what some people, like in some of the articles that I was reading, like in Harvard Business Review and this, I forget this other site that I was reading up on code switching. It was like, for some people, it can be very depleting to the point where they're just like either depressed because it's like you spend so much time at work. And if you, and especially if you're feeling like you can't even be you, and then and you're trying to conform to this, person that doesn't resonate with you, then yeah, it's going to be a hard experience. And for me, that just had me thinking, like, again, what you just described in Nachi is, having clear boundaries and, yeah, being confident in your voice and being as authentic as you possibly can, of course, without it getting to the point where it impacts your role. But at the same time, maybe it's about finding the right company with the right company culture, right? Like, take initiative. And if it doesn't work for you, then leave. Like, you are not beholden to any one company. We have freedom of choice. Some people just don't like that they have a choice and like to rather play than, I can't, the world's terrible and I'm the victim. I'm just saying, like,
I can't stand that.
Yeah.
And I think part of it too, or at least for me, how I got to this moment where I'm like, fuck it, is that I no longer attribute my value as a human being to my work.
Yes.
Work is one of the many things that I do. Work is not who I am.
Exactly.
So like respectfully, like I posted one day on Instagram. I was like, whether you think I'm the villain or the hero, you're right. Like I can't control how people, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course.
Nor do I want to try.
It is not my business what you think of me. That is your business, right? Not my business.
That is your business. And so, I think especially as first gen kids, sometimes that societal familial pressure, right? Because you're the one who made it, you're the one who went to college, sometimes that keeps us stuck, to not try the thing that we really want to try or move jobs or whatever. And I think little by little, more and more that like folks are shedding that, right? Yeah. Because that's a very intense burden to put on humans, right? But legit, your value, like, is not attributed to your output. Like, and I know that a lot of that, and I don't have any academic proof, but in my mind, I'm like, I feel like a lot of that shit does stem from slavery, right? Like, your value was based on your output, right? And so
the harder you work.
And that's the thing. It's like, why do I have to work hard? Like, no, thank you. Like
work smart. Work smart.
I was texting my best friend the other day, and I was like, "Yo, sometimes honestly, I don't think I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams because I don't think they was dreaming of this. I don't really know, bro. I might have to. I need a seance or something because, like, what is your wildest dream?
She's like, I'm calling a meeting.
I'm calling a meeting. Like, I have questions. I don't know.
Calling a meeting.
Calling a meeting.
No, I love it. I mean, yeah, and then it's also like, if join the affinity groups if you feel like the need to. Like, again, I think there are more resources now than there were before, and I just want people to know that, look, this shouldn't be something that depletes you so much that you just like, you hate your existence. But if you get to that point, then it's probably time to reassess and recalibrate about what you're doing in life, right? But,
and quit that fucking job.
That's it.
You will
Leave
get
that
another
company.
one. You will get another one. It's capitalism. You will get another job, I promise.
No, totally. And I sort of wonder.
Maris, you remember when I used to cry when I would go to that?
No, this girl, she worked at a hospital for a short stint as some patient, relationship person.
Goodness.
And she would cry almost every day before going to work and cry about it afterwards. Like, it got to, sometimes I would be like, let me pretend to be asleep because I don't want to hear her complaining about this job. I'm tired, girl.
Gosh, it was so terrible. Oh my goodness.
It was hilarious.
But it's just to your point. Like, if you're not happy,
if you're crying every day.
Like, I feel like what was our ancestors' dream was to not be crying at work every day. I think at least that piece is like, all right, like, can you be okay? Like, not cry every day. Like, this is too much.
Oh my
it's too
goodness.
much.
This is way too much. And the funny thing is, it's like I still talk to my boss at that job. She's a wonderful lady, but
and this place wasn't about code switching it because it was largely black. It was just a terrible work culture. Sadly.
Ooh, my people.
Hospitals are not easy and
stress.
Yes. No,
You up in the hood?
yeah. Not easy. But no, this has been a really great conversation. I mean, there's so much to unpack here in general, right? But we'd be here for like 3 hours. But I love talking to my cousins, my family. I love you so much, Jessica. Thank you.
No, thank you both. This is great. And, again, it's like, free yourselves of the scam that you got to stay at that job. Or
Come on, preach. Say it again, louder for the people in the back.
Some people say life is too short. I say life is too long to be doing shit you don't want to do.
Come on now.
We come from some really good genes, like my Rosa died when she was like, what, 99 or something?
Yeah.
My grandma's 96. Like,
come on. We live long. We live too long here.
Just
we can't suffer.
We can't be crying at work every day.
I'm not crying at work every day. Like, enough is enough, actually.
But remind us again before we leave, remind us all the places we can find you.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at the Tia Chronicles. You can also find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts. And follow all the good things. Again, shout out to all the Tias in the world. Where would we be without our amazing Tias? And the joy to be a Tia, whether you're a mom who's also a Tia or like moi, without any kids, pets, man, nothing, but just out here living life. Like, it's such a beautiful role that we are blessed to have in our communities and our culture. So shout out to the Tias.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at I'm Not Yelling _. Thank you, everyone. Peace out. Bye.